I'm great. I just finished my January receipts, so I'm feeling ready and able to start really focusing on streaming and development now. Life is good. How are you doing? Yeah. Happy New Year. I hear Nick fine for the record, and he sounds great. Just FYI, you're all missing out. Fantastic voice.
Okay, there. Now people can hear me. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you can hear me now, Ryan. Cool, cool. I think he'll say yes, but yeah, no, I got to sort out something with my virtual microphone that does the noise canceling. There we go. Yeah, that's what I thought. So, anyways, me and Josh were just talking about awesome stuff. Well, you heard Josh, but all I was saying was kickstarting the stream up for 2025. Clearly, I hit a snag. I use Crisp.ai for like noise canceling, and something got messed up with the permissions. So the the microphone it shows it there, but I have to grant access to something. And I keep setting the permission, but it's not applying it. So uh, yeah, the YouTube delay is far worse. Yeah. Anyways, it's set up in OBS for the crisp microphone, so which is the virtual one. That's why it wasn't picking me up. So, anyways, we're all good now. I, anyways, I dropped a link where you can give Josh a follow. So like, uh, since that kind of got slightly derailed, for folks who might not know you, Josh, I know a lot of folks do know you, but you're pretty active in the open source community. You mind kind of giving I guess, a TLDR of what you've been up to and like, I guess maybe a bit of history too?
Sure.
Hey, what's
Hi
up, Fuzzy?
everyone. If
Sorry.
Fuzzy, oh, I owe him a DM. Oops. Hi Fuzzy. Hi everyone. If you don't know me, my name's Josh. Hello. I do open source full time. I what that means is instead of actually I should say, yeah, it's a new year. I normally have this so well rehearsed. It's so smooth when I describe it. I'm a full time independent open source maintainer, which means instead of working for any one particular company, I work on projects across the ecosystem. I do that because I really enjoy it and I think it's really beneficial. I think I've made a strong positive impact in how people write JavaScript and TypeScript. There are many people who've made positive impacts. This one is mine. So I take on a variety of projects. Some of them are my own. Some of them are like ecosystem wide big ones like ESLint or TypeScript ESLint. And then
Yeah.
the last couple of years, I've discovered this love of joining on and rebooting maintenance for really old projects. Uh, the first big one was Mocha, and now more recently Yeoman. Two projects that most people don't use, and many folks do not actually know what they are anymore.
Yeah. No, yeah, it's kind of funny because like we've both been in the industry for a while, so like there's been many testing frameworks that are like there's Mocha, there's the assertions with Chai, there's like basically anything coffee named is what it comes down to, I guess. And then there was
Yeah,
also Night Watch, which was
right.
from Angular days. Or am I mixing that name up? It, uh, was it Night
Oh
Watch?
wow.
Yeah, this was like in the Angular 1.4 days. And I think Night Watch might have become Mocha, not Mocha. What's the original in browser testing framework. Was it Mocha? No,
Karma.
Jen. Yeah, Karma. Sorry.
Okay.
I think Nightwatch might have become Karma. I'm not positive of that. And then yeah, there's Jasmine as well. There's like I guess there's a mixture of test frameworks but also assertion libraries and then like but I think anybody from probably beginning of 2020 or maybe like 2018 they just started becoming familiar with just Jest maybe, and then obviously we've got like some other great ones there too now like Vitesse and so on, and it's like and Node has a built-in one now, and it's
Yeah.
like I don't know. This is just a general question, but I'm curious what like I think competition is a good thing, but also it's kind of like maybe not so much for an experienced dev, but I find like for someone coming in, it's like, what do I pick then? Like
Wow, I just hurt myself. Hi, intellect. Yeah, I think you're right. Like, there's no good way to build an ecosystem. There's going to be developer pain no matter what you do, and people are going to be pissed and scream that the other way, the other side of the spectrum is better. If you have
yeah,
too much choice, like when Mocha was new, when I was like learning JavaScript, you had to choose the test framework and you had to choose the assertion library. They didn't come together. And God
yeah,
forbid you wanted to use something like Babel, to transpile your code. Everything has manual, which meant that
yeah,
we were innovating really quickly. We were learning a lot and coming to better ways of doing stuff at the cost of user pain. So I think we've hit kind of a healthier, if not altogether healthy medium now in the ecosystem where like you have these really nice getting started projects like
yeah,
Vitest will just do all those things for you. But you still have some choice, which means people are still innovating and trying new things.
yeah. Oh,
Daniel.
hey, what's up, Daniel? Good to see you. Lots of wonderful folks joining today. Yeah, no, it's yeah for sure, and it's like I don't know. I think we've talked about this maybe in a virtual coffee or just at some point, but like even with all the different options and tooling out there right now, I and yes, I do understand it's maybe difficult for somebody getting in the industry right now. It's that said, it's still like I think an amazing time to be doing software development. Like people will complain about stuff, but like and I don't mean this in a like old man shouting at clouds, but it's like TypeScript was a game changer. Like just the way like like which is pretty much powering everything at this point in framework land, aside from Next.js. But Next.js is doing some great work with like TurboPack, and there's also RSPack. There's like I just I was always the person, I don't know about you, but I was the person that always had to configure Webpack.
Yeah.
Which I didn't mind, but it's just like I don't know why it happened, but it was always like, oh, I guess Nick will do it. So and
That's the problem.
yeah,
You web packed yourself into a corner. It's a classic
yeah.
mistake.
But I'm definitely so glad that we have meta frameworks now and are just like e- a lot more ease of like plugging things in like it like in Vite in your configuring just say add React or add this Tailwind, etc. And it's just like I just remember the days of not only configuring Webpack, but like my start to getting into or one of my starts of getting into open source was contributing to a React boilerplate, React Slingshot from Corey House, who's a I think fairly well known React consultant at this point. But it was always like this is how I set up React. So here's my template if you want to use it. And like Max Stoiber had React boilerplate, I think, too, and anyways, I just love that we have frameworks and CLIs for all this stuff now. And this kind of brings me to kind of what we're going to talk about today, which
Yeah.
is Yeoman. So I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen here, assuming I haven't broken anything with my live stream since January. And I'll also share this for you, Josh, so you can see it. But I've got Yeoman on the screen right now. Give me 1 second. I'll share it with you too. Start my virtual camera. But yeah, like so Yeoman is I don't know when you came across Yeoman. I remember Yeoman like probably when was it? I don't know. Maybe like might have even been like 2015 or 2016. But like, I just remember it was like, okay, this is how you can get started with a project, and I came across it there, and then I can't remember where else I'd come across it, but then later on, uh, I was like looking at creating a Visual Studio Code extension, and that's the next place I saw it, and that's kind of been, I guess, my experience with Yeoman.
The shares just popped up for me. Yeah,
Okay, cool.
it that really. By the way, I want to praise you, give you a praise note for a moment. That was a fantastic transition, just thematically. Like we're talking about how the ecosystem has evolved from all these bajillion choices, and now you have these nice starters. But you're right. Like there really is kind of a need where if you're just breaking into web dev, why are you being asked to choose between 13 different test libraries? It's absurd. That's
Yeah,
not the learning you need at the moment. The challenge. So Yeoman was a very early example of a really nice project to do that for people. To Yeoman itself is not the opinionated, create whatever app. Yeoman is the template engine that you can use to build that
yeah,
opinionated getting started thing for people, which is so nice. Like if you want to start, I think the one really main open source example I bring up is the VS Code extension. You want to start a VS Code extension? They use Yeoman to just
yeah,
give you this nice little CLI where you put in the name and some options and you have a project for you. Fantastic. It works. Amazing. The problem is Yeoman wasn't really maintained more on than off for the last few years. So it's kind of crumbled. There are a lot of like deprecation warnings or outdated docs.
yeah.
And there are like a few other really nice projects that have kind of tried to take on that mental ecosystem, but nothing that's like really gotten to that high visibility adoption level that Yeoman originally did.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and it it is though, like it was kind of like a groundbreaking tool, I think. And like just to just to shout out, like I think, the people behind it too initially. And we're going to talk about you're one of the new maintainers now. We'll get into that for sure, but like some of these faces might be familiar to people, like Adios Mani, who's over at Google now. He was big into this. Sindre, who's like everywhere in the JavaScript
Everywhere.
ecosystem. Paul Irish, who I think I've never met Paul, but he's over at Google still, I think. Like there's some big names here that made this happen because they saw a need for it, and so just want to give a shout out to them for kickstarting this. But yeah, moving to kind of now, you've become one of the maintainers, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's you and somebody else have started taking over maintainership of the project. Is that correct? Or
That's correct. We've actually
okay?
gotten a good amount of help from some past maintainers.
Oh,
But yeah,
cool.
the two of us are it's Ulysses Gascon and me. He's over in like the Node ecosystem. He's on
Okay.
all sorts of like TSCs and stuff. And I'll post in the Twitch chat. Actually, is there
Okay.
somewhere I should post a link that would get to everyone?
Yeah, you can post it there, or if you wanna, you can post it in Twitch, and I can pull it from there if you want. Or if not, there's like messages in like the streaming software we're in right now. I can send you a message if you want to pop it up in there. If not,
I did
but
both.
either way. Okay, cool.
Yeah. Yeah, so Ulysses and I honestly he's been great to work with, by the way. Shout out. I found Yeoman or refound Yeoman because I was looking at making my own templating engine. I had some
Okay.
needs that nothing addressed. And I enjoy taking on old repos and found that Yeoman was a thing that could be taken on. And then he also was looking into it at the same time. It was very
Okay.
synergistic.
Yeah,
But yeah,
and
so we put our maintenance kind of goals, the reboot in this pinned issue in the Yeoman repo 1779, saying basically
okay.
this is not like a new cutting edge project. We're not going to shake up anything. We're just trying to make it stable. Fix the deprecation notices, update the docs, that type of stuff.
Okay. I guess that's the only the only issue open at the moment here.
Yeah, this
Cool.
repo doesn't actually have code, so we just transferred any open issues to the appropriate ones.
Okay, gotcha. Cool. I'll just drop this again just so it goes to all the channels. Yeah. So I guess and correct me if I'm wrong, but is Ulysses one of the people that works on Hermes, the Hermes engine, or am I mixing him up with somebody like the React Native Hermes engine, or is he, or what's he
Don't
I know
believe
his
so.
name from stuff. Okay, well, he's obviously doing a lot of
Yeah,
stuff. Okay, he's over. Oh, he's maintain. Oh, he's a
Express, Node.
okay. So he's doing a few things. So
Yeah.
yeah, and that just reminds me too. For folks that want to sponsor either Josh or Ulysses, I'm gonna drop their links in here because I get to shamelessly plug for Josh instead of him plugging it, so it's not awkward. So I get to do it.
Thanks.
So no
Appreciate it.
shame there. I am shamelessly plugging for you. So okay, cool. What's your handle again? It's just Josh K Goldberg.
Joshua K. Goldberg.
Yeah. Okay. We're gonna put you on the big screen for a sec for anybody interested in sponsoring Josh too. Um, and I say this is one I want people to sponsor you, but I'm a sponsor of you as well because I think the work you're doing in the ecosystem is important, and we've talked about this briefly before, but like there's a problem with obviously funding in open source, which we can touch on that too if you want to, but um, I'm always happy to sponsor people where I can. Like I mean, I don't have a endless wallet or anything, but it's really like I know you're a big fan of this too, and I met up with Chad Whitaker over
Yeah.
at I was at All Things Open last October and got to hang with him. We had a funny night out, um, and they're doing the open source pledge. I think that's a great initiative, kind of peer pressuring in a good way to get companies to like just put money into open source. Because like although I think it's cool that devs are like, hey, I'm gonna give $5 to Josh, and like a lot of people do that. It's not, and over time it compounds for sure. But it's like I really think it should be the companies you work for, because
Yeah.
I mean, it's a nice thing to do as a dev, but like, and I know companies do give money, but like, I feel like even dropping like $1 million from like, say like IBM or Microsoft is like a drop in the pond. And to be clear, I know these companies do put money into it. It's just, I feel like they could still put a massive amount and it wouldn't affect their bottom line, and it would just push things forward. But I digress, and I'm sure you have tons of thoughts there if you wanna if you wanna go into that.
Sure. Yeah, I see it as similar to recycling. You should recycle. I recycle. It's good for the environment. Personal recycling is not the biggest issue, though. It's corporate recycling. And the
Yeah,
idea that we as individuals need to adopt, paper straws and recycling is nowhere near the level of impact as stopping these massive corporations from polluting the environment and cutting down the rainforests.
yeah,
Like it's not right that you, Nick, should give me $5 a month when companies are making millions off of open source work like that. Like
yeah,
that's
for
not
sure.
sustainable, and it doesn't actually change that much for me to
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
have you.
exactly.
But it is really nice, and I really do appreciate, and it does make a difference, especially for me individually. So thank you for the sponsorship, you and everyone else.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. But yeah, no, totally agree. And especially when companies are clearly like front end development, which I know there's a lot of front end devs that are on the stream here normally. Like literally, all the tooling you use is literally all open source. There might be a couple paid things for like open core stuff, maybe, but like Vite's open source. Every framework is open source. All the testing frameworks are open source. It's like I don't know. It's just wild, and it's like but like they're like not just front end, obviously, like back end there's all kinds of stuff, like all the tons of infra tools. Kubernetes is open source, and Kubernetes, that's, I guess that's different because like a lot of the big companies did have put people into that, and like I I'm kind of new to that space at my new role, but like I think Kubernetes has like a really good governance, and like I think the funding is there because like Google and the big companies are, but I'm not positive. But it sounds like they've got some things figured out. But regardless,
Yeah.
the general is like, yeah, companies just put money into OSS.
Yeah. From my experience, I think it's the medium sizes that really are lacking in attention. Really huge projects like Kubernetes, they have foundations.
Yeah,
They have the marketing spiel. They have the urgency of, if you don't fund Kubernetes, your deployments will die. But then
that's true.
medium
Yeah,
sized things like, TypeScript ESLint or Yeoman or Mocha, like these projects that are important, that are relevant and used, but they don't directly contribute to the bottom dollar. They don't directly, whatever,
Yeah.
like touch every single facet of deployment. Um, there's not a lot of strong incentive for companies. And similarly, like these really big companies like Microsoft, Apple, Google, these big names, they're under a lot of pressure, and they are at the scale where they can
Yeah.
actually tie revenue improvement to sponsoring big projects like Kubernetes. But like
Yeah.
companies that aren't massive and tech based, like for example Walmart, Target, other retail ones, they don't
Yeah.
receive a lot of pressure right now to sponsor open source or medium sized projects, so they don't. So it's just like this
Yeah.
weird in between that really sucks for the ecosystem right now.
Yeah. I know it's true. It's like hopefully it improves. Like because I don't know. I know you know all this, but like in preaching to the choir maybe, but like things are better when they're open source. You get more eyes on things. Like people, like I think there's been like an argument sometimes where people are like, well, it's all open, somebody can hack it or whatever, but it's kind of like the opposite. It's like people are like, oh, I found a vulnerability. Like people that aren't on your immediate team or like literally anywhere on the planet can just pull it down and go like, hey, I found an issue. And like I don't know, I'm biased too because I've been working professionally in open source since 2020, but like I love that aspect of it, whereas in closed source, and nothing against closed source, like I've worked in closed source, it's just the people that fix things in there are the people on that immediate team that have access to that code. So it's like, I don't know. It's I think it's kind of like all around just a good thing, but time will tell, I guess, but we'll see.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll see.
Yeah. Um, but sorry for slightly derailing that, but like getting back to Yeoman, which is open source. Um, so I guess you were mentioning that you're kind of like you like kind of shepherding old projects. I'm curious why that is, because like I can kind of see like for myself sometimes I'm like I'm kind of done with that thing. I'm gonna move on. So like what's the like personal appeal for you to be like, I'm gonna improve Mocha or keep it back up to date? Like what's your motivation, I guess?
Why would I spend hours upon hours on a project I don't actually want to use myself? uh, all my repos are on VTest now.
Yeah,
um,
yeah,
yeah, it's a good question. There are a few reasons. One is that I actually find it really interesting. Like it's not a problem that you get to face in open source. You face the problem of like old, outdated thing that still is relied upon in closed source at corporate work, basically for all your code. Like that's what it is to work at a company most of the
yeah,
time. But an open source line, it's a very different game. Like you have these projects that are still widely in use. You can actually publicly track many of the consumers. For example, Mocha is used by ESLint and TypeScript and others. But you have these issues from like 4 years ago, what not that just haven't been addressed or responded to even. And you
yeah,
can see that like even though you don't personally use this project, if you let's say resolve a long-standing issue, that actually does make things better in a way that
yeah,
wouldn't likely have been hit by someone because there's no like full-time team working on it. So I don't know that there are like multiple reasons, but for me, I just think it's
yeah.
really interesting, like how to triage and get these user benefits in something that doesn't have like immediate applicability to like your own day-to-day life.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up too, because like a common thing I'm sure you're asked too, and like it's just like, how do I contribute to open source? Because like I think from like an engineer's brain, like it's everybody's been kind of skewed with always got to get all the green squares, and it don't get me wrong, my lizard brain likes getting green squares too, and I do like pushing code, but there's so many more ways that you can contribute to a project, like you're saying, triaging. One of the most satisfying things I had was when I was at Netlify working on like a remix integration. I ran into this issue and I didn't fix the issue, but I created this super detailed issue that explained exactly what was happening,
Mhm.
and I know that had
Right.
impact, and that made me feel really good even though I didn't get code pushed, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
And it's you know and so like there's so many ways you can contribute, and not only that, like you could also just kind of be kind of I don't know what the term is, but like kind of you're trying to promote the project in a sense. Like my friend Anthony Campolo, he I don't know if he's still on the Redwood JS core team, but basically he was a career changer. He was a music teacher, musician, and then he wanted to get into tech. And then he came across Redwood. I can't remember how or why, but he just started making videos and writing blog posts about it. Like he wasn't even contributing code, and they invited him to the core team just because of that. You know, so like there's many ways that you can have impact. I guess is what I'm saying. So
For sure.
so thanks for
Yeah.
bringing up the triaging.
I forgot that that was a thing that most people don't end up doing a lot in open source because yeah, you're right. Most people just I have to get the green squares, which is such
Yeah,
an asinine mentality that's been pushed on us. Um, but yeah, I
yeah.
think that brings up a good second issue, which is my lizard brain loves organization. Like all my stuff is
Okay.
in Notion or failing that Google Sheets. I love, seeing things get organized and orderly. And in a repo where you can just won't fix anything that's a huge change, oh my
Yeah.
god. Or anything that doesn't have a lot of like broad user need, which when an issue was filed in 2017 and not responded to for 7 years and then has two upvotes, you can tell is probably the case. Oh my
Yeah.
god. We closed so many issues in Mocha. Most of them as duplicates because
Yeah.
who searches old issues. It's just really satisfying to like stabilize and organize an old project. It's like the Marie Kondo thing, but for code.
Okay. Yeah. I won't say personally that I live for ultimate organization, but I know my brain's just different sometimes. But no, but I mean that's cool because like that it's something you want to do and it's definitely super helpful to the projects too. Um, so I guess like in terms of Yeoman, um, now, so like you have the one issue open just saying it's the project reboot. Like I don't know if you've had talks with Ulysses yet about like goals or what you want to accomplish with the project now. Is it strictly to just keep it up to date with like Dependabot and everything just so people can still use it, or are you also planning on potentially new feature work, or just kind of curious what you think, and if you haven't had all these discussions yet, that's cool. Just kind of curious what your thoughts are of Yeoman going forward, I guess.
It's a great question. We have had those discussions.
Okay.
Um, the general drive is what you described. We're not doing any big feature work ourselves. It's just keeping up to date with the Joneses, meaning
Okay.
just like not having dependency warnings.
Yeah.
We where I think it's an interesting problem, as I have repeatedly enthused. We don't we don't get benefit from I think pushing Yeoman forward as a feature area. It's an older thing. There are alternatives that have come up with more modern designs. Like Yeoman
Yeah.
has this like weird class generator implementation detail for the way
Okay.
to build templates that no one has wanted in many years.
Yeah.
Um, it's just the nature of things. It's an old project. It's made the way things were made, and now we've moved on into different patterns.
Yeah. No,
So
totally.
I mean, it's more valuable, I think, for the ecosystem if we spend our limited time on feature work on other projects. But
Yeah.
it is still valuable if we like overhaul the docs or at least touch up the docs to not be outdated. If we like fix up packages to work well in like this ESM CJS hellscape,
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, and that, I mean, for folks, I know there's a bunch of us probably in the JS ecosystem here, but uh, maybe touch on like the whole ESM CJS stuff
Sure.
because like I don't know, like some people think it's just a syntax thing sometimes. Like I just want to use import, something from, and it's a lot more complex than that, obviously. The module resolution and so
Whole
like
hell of
it's
a
it's
Lua.
kind of a big deal fixing this going forward, I think.
Yeah. So in JavaScript, for many many years and years ago, there was no standard module system. Like in Python, you do from something import whatever, and in C++ you do whatever the hell C++ people are doing these days. Uh,
Yeah.
I haven't touched C++ in over a decade, for which I'm grateful. But yeah, when Node.js came out, it added its own, like had built in its own system, which was later referred to and standardized as what's called Common JS, CJS.
Yeah.
But that's like a node thing, and there are actually some assumptions built into Common JS that don't work in all JavaScript runtimes. It assumes that you can load modules synchronously, which doesn't
Yeah.
work in browsers where everything might be a network request.
Yeah.
So
Totally.
now there's this new standard called ESM, ECMAScript modules. It's like actually built in a part of JavaScript, but transitioning everyone from the old Node CJS way to this new, not always, but sometimes compatible ESM way is a
Yeah.
gosh darn nightmare. It's gotten a lot better though. Node
Yeah. Yeah.
just shipped support for importing ESM modules from CJS lands
Oh yeah,
in
that's
most
right.
cases. There are edge cases where you can't do it for good reason. They're just like physically, this is why it's a different format and a breaking change. But like they just made it a lot better. So I
Yeah.
think we see the light at the end of the tunnel, and it's getting much friendlier for everyone.
Yeah, for sure. And there's a lot happening in in the JavaScript ecosystem. Like, we've got Node obviously still. Dino's been around for a while now. We got Bun. I think the competition is good. Uh, it's interesting though because you know two are VC backed and one is just volunteers, and that's a whole other discussion, I
Yeah.
guess, too. But I mean, I still think it's healthy, the competition, because like we've seen, at least from, because like Dino, I felt like got pretty popular around the time I was like at Netlify. Like they use it for Netlify functions, and Supabase does for Edge functions, and we just kind of started seeing this uptick in there. They're at version 2 now, or 2 dot something, and like for example, Node didn't have TypeScript support, and now we do. I think they just removed the experimental flag in Node 23, but it's supposed to be backported to 22. I think I'm not positive about that. Like that's kind of huge to me, at least. I'm sure not just me, but like I have some stuff I run with Hono right now. I use TSX, or you could use like what was the other one for it? You used to register it as well, but uh,
PS
there's a
Node.
few
Yeah.
options. Yeah, but I don't know. It's just interesting times, and it's like I'm curious where, like, it's almost as if the runtimes, not if, they are more than just a runtime now. It's like they're all slowly becoming a one-stop shop, I think. Like
Yeah.
Node's got the test runner. It's got SQLite support now, I think, too. I think positive. I don't know. I could be reading too far ahead here, but anyways, it's just lots of interesting stuff happening in the ecosystem.
Yeah.
But I did kind of want to touch in on Yeoman. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the stream, and we were talking about it before. It's interesting that VS Code, or Visual Studio Code, uses it for their extensions. If you want to create one, that's how you scaffold it. And I don't know. I just find it interesting that, like, if the project wasn't, I mean, it's great that you and Ulysses are maintaining it now, but I find it a little peculiar that Microsoft went with that choice but didn't contribute to it, or I don't know. What do you think about that? Or
I I don't know whether anyone from Microsoft significantly contributed to Yeoman back in the day. I do know that like the extension using Yo thing is pretty old, so it
yeah,
might be a bit of a chore to dig up the answer to that question. Even if they didn't, though, I don't begrudge them that. I mean, Microsoft is a big company, but any big
yeah,
company is just a whole bunch of small teams strung together by middle management, which is a bunch of middle managers strung together by upper management.
yeah. That's true.
The left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing. I don't think there's an impetus on every small team to contribute to every major project they touch, especially given that the VS Code team is itself an open source team that's significantly contributed to the ecosystem.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, no, that's a good point. Yeah, I guess they went with it because, like, well, I guess for some context too, I guess it, because like when I started using Visual Studio Code, this was back in 2015, and it's amazing these days. But at the time, there was no extensions. It was literally just a TypeScript editor. That's really what it was. And I can't remember when I mean, Yeoman must have still been pretty popular at this point when they did the extensions and like the marketplace, because it probably makes sense with the timeline. Oh, let's use Yeoman. It's a super stable, robust scaffolding system. So I feel like that's probably why they went with it at the time, and maybe they just had no need to update it, I guess, because like the template,
Yeah.
it does like, even though it's an older tool, it still does what it does well. Like it scaffolds whatever you decide to scaffold, right? So I guess
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess that's why. Like I can't remember when extensions became a thing in VS Code. I think it was like 2017, maybe, or maybe I can't remember. But anyways,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a testament to how well written and managed and architected Yo and Yeoman are slash were. I mean, what is it? Almost a decade later or something, like 5+ years at the very least. It still works
yeah,
as like the generator for a new starter extension. That's
yeah,
incredible. What in JavaScript land lasts longer than 5 years? You know,
yeah.
even
No,
with
totally.
maintenance.
Yeah. And I was gonna say, I'm just gonna share my screen again here. You should be able to see this, Josh. But like, even though it is an older tool, it like we said, it does its job well. And you can see here, like I didn't even know they had an ESLint scaffolding. So like if I wanted to,
Oh
because
yeah.
like I've been on a live stream with Josh before where we dug into creating a custom ESLint rule, and we kind of rolled it by hand. Like I mean, Josh knows what he's doing because he works on the TypeScript ESLint team, but I probably could have just come in here and said yo ESLint, and just get a good starting point. So like there's tons of things here, and there's VS Code that we mentioned right here. So there's,
Yeah.
oh, and it looks like it was updated 1 day ago. So clearly there is some activity. So that's good to see. But
Was it?
there's like a ton of things in here. So like I mean, maybe, yeah, okay, yeah, see, like people are still like, even though this hasn't really been maintained and you're taking it over, like people are using this still. Like you can see 9 hours ago, like, I don't know how popular that scaffolding project is, but like, it seems to have some pretty good activity. So like there's definitely people still using this. It's not just like charity case, kind of like let's just
Yeah.
put it, resuscitate it kind of thing. So that's pretty cool to know that people are using it still somewhat frequently, I guess. But um,
Yeah.
and yeah, if you're creating a Visual Studio Code extension, like this is how you start it. Like you literally do. I think it's just Yo code. I think that's it. Um,
Yeah.
I don't. I don't know if you want to, like, we definitely don't have to do this, but do you want to maybe walk through like using Yeoman, or like we
Let's
could
do it. Can
Okay,
you
cool.
do it as a
Yeah.
source of user research to see if we have to file some docs bugs?
Yeah, yeah, we could do that too. Okay, so I'll just I'm gonna zoom in here just so people can see stuff. I'm just gonna get to my dev folder. Let's go to streams, and I don't know, let's just do make dir yo stream, and we'll just do npm init y here. Okay, so we got some stuff here, and let's go into the yo stream, and I'll just open this up in here. Okay, so we got nothing in the project right now. So the first thing, if we come back to the project here, is you got to install it globally. So I'm going to go ahead and do that.
So
So, and
immediately I can tell you that that's something that I'm gonna hope to work on, because that
yeah,
that doc line was written before npx, and nowadays you can just
yeah,
use npx
yeah. So yeah, and it's a good point because like I have some things installed globally occasionally, but it's generally as far as I know, it's not a good practice. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's. I agree. It's not a good practice because you never want to have one global system wide version for any dev tool, in my opinion. Like unless it's
Okay.
something incredibly standardized, like an editor,
Yeah.
each of your projects are likely to have different versions of it. So like one version of Yo, I don't know. I will say
Yeah.
though that Yo specifically, which is just for clarity, in case it's not apparent, like it's the tool that starts Yeoman. I think that's fine to have installed globally. It's just I don't want to have to manage it myself. I would rather use a
Yeah.
tool like npx or pnpx to do
Yeah.
that.
And And if you did like the yo command, like it's pretty easy just to create an alias in your shell, yo equals npx, you know, like if you don't want to type the whole thing out, like, because we're all lazy. So yeah, I haven't used this in a while. So like, uh, I don't know if it's using my location because I'm in Montreal and that's why it's saying
No,
allo, or if that's just a general thing. But
it's a
anyways,
general thing.
yeah, okay.
Yeoman
So
hails from the time when web dev projects went above and beyond the norm in trying to be cute, and I think we should bring that back. That's one of my favorite things about Yeoman. This
yeah,
whole like cutesy, as long as it doesn't get in the way of like actually using the tool or reading the docs, I think it's fantastic, and it makes this ecosystem just such a fun place to be.
yeah, totally. And yeah, and this, I don't know if Astro took inspiration from something like Yeoman, but like Astro has one of the really fun CLIs out there
Yeah,
with their mascot and stuff. But like the whole interactive CLI is like there's been a huge explosion of that, which I think is a good thing. But yeah, I guess let's just take a tour here. So like I can either find some help, get me out of here, which is quit, I guess, or I can just go ahead and I'm gonna install a generator maybe. So we can search like, I don't know, let's do code and see what it does. Okay, so I'm just kind of freestyling here. So I searched for code and there's a few things here, but there's like the Yeoman generator for VS Code, so I could maybe do that. Um,
seems reasonable.
and let's see what it does. Okay, so what did it say? Okay, code, update your generators, install a generator, find some help. Oh, I got to pick it. Sorry. There we go. So now it's running and okay. So we're in Yeoman still, but this is like specific to VS Code now. So we could say new extension, color theme, key map. I don't know. We could do a new extension, I guess, um, just to see. So what's the name of your extension? Yo is great. I don't know. What's the, yeah, sure. Description, Yeoman is great. I don't know. Initialize Git repository, yes. Okay. Which bundler do you use? I guess we could go with ESBuild. And we'll go with npm. And then, so so this is all Yeoman doing all this right now. So there's some, I guess, uh, what goes into a Yeoman template, I guess. Um,
It's a great question. Yeah, and I think that this was actually like when I was getting into web dev, I was personally like I remember being very intimidated by Yeoman because I did not understand what was Yo versus Yeoman versus the
yeah.
template versus the project. So what's happening here is that Yeoman, like full word, is is the family of libraries that allow you to define a template. That
Okay.
template defines the options that you can prompt users for, such as what package manager to use, as well
Yeah.
as the logic for generating files to be written to disk given those options, like
Yeah.
creating whatever esbuild.js when the person made the esbuild choice.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha.
Yo is the CLI that allows you to like search for, install these generators, and then run those Yeoman generators.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Cool.
anything that you see in VS Code, it was written by Yo, but defined by the generator. Yo asks the generator what it's supposed to do.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. No, and that's nice. So like, it really is a generic enough tool that you can just kickstart whatever you want to do, use whatever templates you use. So that's pretty cool. Now, I remember since we're in VS Code here, I think if I go to the README, let's just go to preview. You can, for anybody that's never built a VS Code extension, I only made like kind of demo ones. You can actually debug it in VS Code, but I'm just trying to remember how you run this or how you, let's see here. This is kind of out of the scope of what Yeoman is, but I was just curious to see. Let's see here. Describe, blah, blah, blah. Well, anyways, we don't necessarily have to run the thing, but we can see here like it added not just files, but it ran some things, and like and this is just to show you like everything it's set up, so uh, pretty much like obviously in this case for VS Code, everything you need to do to build an extension. And if I go to the package JSON, we should have some scripts in here. Okay, yeah, so we can package it, we can run it. Yeah, so all those things. I'm trying to remember how you debug it. I'm just generally curious.
I'm also curious about that. I
Debug
don't
a
have any
VS
recollection of
Code
this.
extension you're building. Yeah, yeah, here we go. For anyone curious. Yeah. Here, I'll drop this in the chat for anybody curious. But yeah, we'll drop that. Boom. Oops, I didn't drop that in the main chat. Sorry. Let's drop it again. But yeah, so even on obviously, okay, so they're actually suggesting NPX here in the VS Code. Josh, I don't know if you can
Why are
see
you
here.
doing dash dash package, yo? Why not
I,
just
I
npx yo?
I didn't even know you could do dash dash package or what it actually means. Does that mean this is the package and then you're passing like kind of options to it? Like you're saying you want to generate code, which is one of the questions, and then you want to use the template, I guess?
Yeah. You can tell that we're new, or at least I'm new to maintenance because I haven't like what I would do and I would recommend anyone who's onboarding to maintaining a project do is like see how everyone uses you, or at least whatever time constraints you have the biggest uses of you across
Yeah.
the ecosystem, and understand like what are all the wacky ways people have figured out. This is one of those things where like we'll put it into like an issue somewhere with a bunch of other ways, and
Yeah.
then like try to figure out what are the right and wrong ways, and then file issues on other people if they're using a way that we think could be improved in some
Yeah.
way.
Okay, debug, start debugging. Oh yeah, that's how you can do it. I think they already have it just set up automatically. So if we come to the debugger, run extension. Oh, okay, yeah. So the Yeoman scaffolded even the debugging, which is nice. Cool. So like if we come back here and I run the extension, it should open up a new VS Code, I think. Okay. Invalid problem reference ES build watch. Okay, I don't know what that
Love
problem
it.
is. Let's
Well,
see
that's
here.
not
Let's
my problem. That's
Yeah,
VS Code people's problem.
yeah, exactly. And this also brings up another interesting point. Like when somebody's like, "Hey, Yeoman isn't working," or like some project, and it's like this is clearly like the code scaffolding. You know, as a maintainer, how do you kind of find that not balance, but like yes, I know you're complaining about the project, but it's actually this other thing. Is it really just more literally just saying that, or is it? Yeah,
Yeah. You don't want to be a jerk about it. Don't go to someone if someone is experiencing pain and does happens to file in the wrong repo, which is totally reasonable. Why would anyone know all this stuff? Like we all have our little subsets of visibility, what we know.
yeah,
Don't go to them and say, "Hey, you jerk. That's not us. Stop yelling at me." Don't be combative. But yeah, be like, "Oh,
yeah,
sorry. That looks unfortunate. This is the repo for yo. All the logic that you're experiencing problems with is over this other repo. You'll want to file an issue on them using their issue guidelines." Boom,
yeah.
done.
Cool. Okay, well, this seems to have died. But anyways, can look at that after. That's not really the goal of the stream here. But anyways, clearly they've scaffolded so you can actually debug the extension. They have all the things you need in place there. So, but all that to say is it was pretty easy to get up and running with Yeoman to just scaffold something. So I'm gonna go ahead and close this, but this is gonna bug me, so I'm gonna try and figure that out after the stream. But I guess we still have a bit of time. Like I always book these things for like an hour and a half. We don't always have to go hour and a half, obviously, but I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to touch on in regards to the Yeoman project, or maybe open source in general, or even just like chatting about some other stuff you're working on too. Like you're part of. I'm actually curious. Like, how many projects do you maintain at this point? Like roughly?
Depends on what you mean by project. Like, are we including little like 50-line utilities that have 2 stars on GitHub?
Um, Potentially. I guess if I reframe it, like, what projects are you maintaining that are maybe more for the community? Like the
Sure. Well, I mean, Nick,
not
all my projects are for the. I'm
yeah,
kidding.
no, no, exactly. But just to your point about in terms of
Yeah.
filtering things out, like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Um, the I'm drinking ice water, and my office is like kind of warm, so I'm fluctuating in temperature. Um,
okay,
the big ones that I'm maintaining, or like for all these on the maintainer team, are
yeah,
TypeScript ESLint, Mocha, Yeoman. Those are like the big ones. I'm
yeah,
also on the committer team for ESLint, which is actually really nice. I don't have to make the big high level decisions for this project, but I do get to have, like pull request review permissions.
okay,
Um, there are also like a lot of smaller projects that I'm like on the team of. Either I adopted and I'm the only person, and or there are a few people. So like ddent, node emoji,
okay,
ESLint plugin package JSON, ESLint plugin expect type. Like they're like it's like the whatever the exponential logarithmic decay. Like there are a few really big ones, and then like as the size goes smaller, the number I'm involved with gets bigger.
yeah, okay, gotcha. Yeah, cool, cool, cool. No, well, that's awesome though that you're doing all that. And like, I'm aware of this because we've chatted about it before, but for folks who might not be aware, you actually went full-time open source. You worked at some great places, but maybe for folks who might be curious, and also how it's possible, like, why did you decide to make the leap to just go all in on open source, I guess?
Sure. Yeah, I spent a little over 3 years each at Microsoft on an awesome product called Sway for most of that. And then
Okay.
at Codecademy, various different teams, and then a large percentage of the time on the web platform team. And throughout both of those, whenever I would join a team, I'd get excited about the user impact. Like Sway was like this really cool, high accessibility way of writing and consuming documents, like Word and
Okay.
PowerPoint documents. But then over time, I'd get more and more excited about like the dev tooling side, the like onboarding the linter or the formatter type stuff.
Yeah.
And that's just became more and more of what I wanted to do. Like I'm
Okay.
really motivated by making the ecosystem better. I want to work on the stuff that makes like developing web apps more pleasant and less bug ridden for everyone. Like what a lofty freaking grandiose goal that is. Uh,
Yeah.
and I was doing a lot of open source work on the side, and then started speaking at conferences and all this. It got to the point where like I realized I could actually go in indie and open source and have maybe not as good of a salary as like an entry level software developer, but a salary.
Yeah.
Um, and by going independent, by not having to work on stuff for like one specific company or product team, I can focus all of my energies on things like ESLint and Yeoman
Hmm.
that are kind of harder to make money off of, but like really have this awesome ecosystem impact, I think.
No, that's cool. And I know you had your 2024 retrospective.
Ooh, yeah.
I guess, I guess a question I'd ask you is like, because I think when we first talked about this, I was still at Netlify, so this might have been 2 years ago when you first did it. I guess now that you've been in it for a while, I'm gonna find your blog post, but any like kind of high level reflection on, how's it going? Any regrets kind of thing, or all roses and colored glasses, or
No regrets. Just kidding. Regrets. When I when I started, a significant percentage of my income did not actually come from open source, which is reasonable because it's hard to build up income over time in open source. Income in open source comes from like projects that I work on, like either in the form of like personal GitHub sponsorships for those, or me from like monthly or hourly invoicing for larger projects. And I just
yeah.
wasn't involved in that many, which actually brings up a third reason why I go on old projects like Mocha or Yeoman. The money is good. What a
Okay.
bizarre thing to say. Um, there are a lot of Yeoman packages published on npm, and each of those are eligible for funding through aggregator platforms like Tidelift and ThanksDev.
Oh, okay.
Is it good that I'm working on this project in part, not majority, but in part because it gets me paid a few $100 a month? Or is it good that we're in a system where that's an actual motivator for me?
Yeah.
Great questions that I don't have the bandwidth mentally to understand the answers to.
Yeah.
Um, eh.
But yeah. Well, I'd say like it's kind of like a regular job in that sense. Like everybody has some part of their job. They're like, oh yeah, I got to do that thing. Not to say that Yeoman's like, oh, I got to do that thing. That's not what I mean. But it's just like you're obviously a big fan of TypeScript. I'm sure like the TypeScript ESLint project is one of your favorite things to work on. But it's kind of like eat that frog, or like just
I
you
get
like
that
this.
reference.
Yeah. uh, but like it's just part of the job, I guess, kind of, and I don't think there's anything wrong with you saying like, you know what, I'm gonna go help this older project go into maintenance mode so that I can make some money, because then it allows me to stay in open source and work on impactful projects, not just that one, but like stuff I really care about as well. Not that you don't care about Yeoman, that's not what I mean. uh, but I hope it's coming across that like you should be getting paid, and like if you can get paid to do other stuff you love too, I don't know, I don't see anything wrong with what you said before, so you know
Thank you.
but
I do care. You're right. I do care about Yeoman, but I'm not excited about it, and I don't care about it in the same way as a project like TypeScript ESLint or any
yeah.
of my personal projects. Like the to before I go on another tangent, you brought up the financial review. Last year,
Yeah.
I made about $60,000 total income as an open source maintainer.
Okay.
Uh, I know like incomes vary depending on location and speciality and like personal career growth, but
Hmm.
$60,000 for a US based developer with about a decade of experience who used to be a staff developer is ass. Like that's a terrible
Yeah.
income for what I've accomplished.
Yeah.
Now I have savings. I have like other income things from my personal life. I have a spouse who has health insurance, thank God. But still, like it's fine now. I'm not complaining, but just pragmatically speaking, it's not long term sustainable.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
I remember when I first hit minimum wage in open source, which was like I forget, like $30,000 or $40,000 or something in the U.S., and I was so excited that that was my achievement. I hit minimum wage as a software developer.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, no.
But yeah, so my income's grown every year, and I think that in part thanks to Yeoman, I should hit around 75K, 80K
Okay.
optimistically for 2025.
Yeah. But like you said, you have stuff in place like I'm in Canada, so like the healthcare thing is less problematic. Like we have private insurance here too to get, additional things that aren't covered, but I know in the States it's like have not heavily, it's 100% tied to your employment, which to quote you from before, sucks ass. Um, so it's not like you're obviously in a good situation where your spouse has that. So that's like one thing off the table already that you don't have to worry about, which is a big one. And so it's kind of nice that I know maybe not everybody can have that set up potentially, but uh, it's nice that you're still comfortable, even though, like you said, it would be a lot better if you were, making a lot more, because like just based on your experience and stuff. But it does go to show that it is possible. But like, just to reiterate what you said, it's probably not sustainable long term. At least right now, for what you're saying. And like, this is kind of where it's interesting, where these other projects, like we talked about it briefly, the open source pledge. um, I'll drop a link to it. I have no affiliations with it at all, but basically this came out of Sentry. Sentry's doing a lot of great stuff with OSS and just kind of trying to push things forward. And I got to meet with Chad Whitaker, like I said, at All Things Open. Also, hey Celestine, thanks for joining us. Um, yeah, it's like stuff like this, I think, is potentially going to help, but I think we need to hit that tipping point where, you know, companies just do more. Like, because like I don't know, I can picture scenarios like I don't know, company X is like, hey, we need some really great feature work done on TypeScript ESLint. Let's fund Josh or the team to do that. Like, it's, uh, but I don't know. Maybe it's a slippery slope too, because then people are like, I'm gonna throw more money to get my thing. I don't know. Like it's, you know,
It's hard.
humans are complicated.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's
I think that money should. I mean, we're working within the constraints of capitalism. So like within the
yeah,
assinet system, the one that's the worst except for all the other ones, as they say. I mean, I like the idea of like aggregator services that you don't pay the 2002 TypeScript BSLint to get a feature. You pay it to something like TideLift or ThanksDev to
yeah,
distribute to your dependencies, which it means that maintainers. I would rather maintainers not be financially incentivized to abandon their ideals. I mean,
yeah,
in the current system, an open source maintainer is generally someone who like really deeply cares, but like when there's a lot more money, it becomes less idealistic on average.
yeah. That's
But I
true too.
also I think like to get us to that point where we have those moral issues, like how do we incentivize companies to sign the open source pledge? Like let's say I'm
Yeah,
a whatever 500-person company based in Toronto. Why why the hell do I care? It's not like there's a dearth of junior engineers. Like I can
yeah,
hire. Like we're doing fine. We need like specific tangible things, whether it's carrots or sticks. Like bonus like discounts on conference funding, or like a
yeah,
restaurant style health grade where like developers know not to apply to companies with an F for open source funding. Like whatever it is, there needs to be some
yeah,
set of carrots and sticks that actually motivate companies, like real practical motivations, not pie in the sky ideals to do this type of
yeah,
thing.
yeah. No, it's true. There kind of has to be, getting back to the capitalistic portion of it. What's in it for me, kind of. You know, it's not just like, in an ideal world, it's like, here's $1 million to OSS. I feel good now. Uh, like, at the end of the day, that's not how companies operate. They do have goals, even, but and it's not a terrible thing. Like, maybe it's a marketing thing, where you're like, hey, we're big corp X, and we're gonna give 2 million to a bunch of projects. Yes, it makes you look good, so that's your, like, what's in it for me, and you're moving the needle in OSS. So, like, I don't know. It's Yeah, it's
Yeah.
I still feel like it's uncharted territory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The way I personally, as an open source maintainer, kind of work with this system is um, I do a lot to try to increase my visibility. Like these streams, I do enjoy the stream. This is not just because it helps me, but this does help
Yeah,
me.
but there is an
I make
incentive, I think, and that's also why I invited you on as well. I love hanging with you, but well, part of why I like to have people on the stream too is to, like, promote them to some degree. You know what I mean? Not that I'm like some huge influence or anything, but like, hey, like, Josh is doing cool shit. Let's talk about it. Like,
every bit helps.
yeah,
Another thing is that I'm trying to get good at focusing on high impact things. Like you asked earlier if there were like regrets or learnings or whatnot from previous years.
yeah,
Um, One learning is that you actually, this was told to me by Jordan Harband, LJ Harb, when I like
yeah.
asked for advice when I was first going new. Thank you again, Jordan, for the great advice. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Like I, for a
Okay,
very long time, was putting all of my open source time investments in TypeScript ESLint.
yeah,
Pragmatically, I'm happy about that. Like that was not a bad decision. I did a lot of great work and I helped other people do great work, I think, in the TSESLint project. But that project is paid monthly, not hourly. So
okay,
assuming I more than meet the expectations of a maintainer, any additional hour I spend on TypeScript ESLint is unpaid work when you think about it.
yeah,
So I'm doing less for TypeScript ESLint now, and instead working on more
okay,
projects like Mocha and ESLint that pay hourly, or on new projects of mine to try to get them into the band where like aggregator services would pay them.
yeah. No, that's true. Yeah, yeah. No, it's honestly, it's just it's. I feel like we could talk about this forever, but like, I mean, maybe there's not as many OSS nerds in the chat, but like, it's just, yeah. I don't know, because things have changed, right? Like when open source first started, like, if you go back to, like, Linux and all that, like, there was never a goal to, like, you know have some monetary value about it. And then like I feel like there was a tipping point where people started abusing open source. I don't know if abusing is the best term, but like, you know what I mean? Like, like the common term, like, hey, it's free software, you know? And like, so, you know, great for me, you know? And like, and it's, you know, it is technically free software depending on the licensing, I guess. But it's just, I think people have, I think the difference now is just so many things depend on open source. Like literally every server, most servers are running Linux, which is open source. You know, like the internet is powered by open source. You know, and I think it's because there's that huge dependency on it now that we're kind of seeing this kind of happening now. I think, but like,
Yeah.
anyways, yeah,
Can
but
I, as much as I love talking and or complaining about open source, can I tell you about some of my goals for the upcoming year that actually are like Yeoman area and relevant?
yeah. Sorry, we went on tangents there. Yeah, no, go for it for sure.
Cool. No, I got it. I just remembered that I wanted to talk about this stuff and I got all excited. So Yeoman Yeoman is a repo, a template system engine, whatever you want to call it. I have my own template, not engine but template called Create TypeScript app, which I
Okay,
stand by. I think it's the best way to make like a generic TypeScript CLI or some such right now. It comes with all the best tooling that I could ever think of, like all the greatest, like general to anyone, ESLint configs and plugins, and like all these other tools like NIP and Markdown Legend, all these great things.
yeah,
Um, I stand by it. I think it's a great tool. Um, it's really hard actually to write a good like create whatever app generator, like create
okay,
Next app, create React app, rip, create TypeScript app. So I split out an engine from create TypeScript app, which I'm
okay,
tentatively calling create, which is kind of a competitor to Yeoman, but it's like a very different way of doing things. And I like
okay.
to think I can do both. And I'm really excited about that. I think having good tools like Yeoman or Create in the ecosystem means that people will mean that people can write templates a lot more easily, which
Hmm.
means it'll make it a more friendly ecosystem for folks to join in. Like we were talking
Yeah,
earlier about not having to choose 15 different tools for your
yeah,
project.
yeah, totally. Yeah, no, that's cool. And yeah, no, it's definitely like obviously we have meta frameworks, but like you know the world isn't just JavaScript frameworks. So like there's so many things that you want to scaffold or could scaffold, and having something like Create or Yeoman out there is definitely uh, a good avenue because like I know like lots of times I've just copy pasted stuff and I still do
Yeah.
that sometimes, you know, and it's like I probably should just have a generator, you know what I mean? Like so yeah, no there's definitely a need for these things still and these things could probably like you could probably still have your, you know, your I won't say create React app because that's a whole can of worms, but you know, like create whatever and like even tools that exist, and they could under the hood, you know, use Yeoman or create, you know, and still have their great CLI experience. You know, I'm not sure what everybody's using for scaffolding in some of the meta frameworks, but yeah, and yeah, there's just you know, getting back to it, I don't know, great time to be a dev. So many tools out there, good tools, and yeah, no, it's definitely appreciated you're working on these things. I'll drop a link again to where folks can find you, and I'll just drop Yeoman as well. If you've never used Yeoman, even if you're using other stuff right now, I encourage you to explore it. Just try it out. You know, maybe even you know if you're interested in contributing to open source, maybe try creating a generator one for something you need, but also you know you're testing out Yeoman, and maybe there's some issues that might occur when you're going ahead and doing all that, and that's those are like we were saying impact on a project. It's not just getting the green squares. It could be opening up a good issue, and I'm sure Josh and Ulysses would welcome any issues you find in the project. So cool.
100%.
Yeah, I guess it's good enough place to wrap it up, Josh. I've got to stand up in about 15 minutes, and always great hanging with you. I feel like we could just chat forever, but for the sake of time, I guess we should end it. But yeah, thanks again for coming on, and thanks everybody in the chat today. And um, next week, gonna be hanging with. I'll drop the schedule. Gonna be hanging with Tessa Crizel, who's a DevRel expert and CEO at Built for Dev. We're gonna be talking about reproducible DevRel, which sounds pretty interesting. So, yeah, so tune in next week for that, and we'll see you in the next one. And Josh, if you don't mind just staying on for a second, and take care, everybody.
Bye, everyone.